Welcome to today. I am Anetta.
And I'm Jade.
And this is
Boo You Gore.
We bring you something that is not Australian today, which is...
I reckon this is our first one, isn't it?
I think so. I did a Ouija board one, but that's like a generalised.
That's it.
But today we bring you... I think we told you on the last episode that we were going to do Ted Bundy, but we bring you Theodore today. Little Theodore Bundy.
Good old Teddy.
He's just very... If you squint or make your eyes blurry, he looks like that generic police profiling picture. Does that make sense?
It's funny how, when you watch that extremely evil, shockingly vile or whatever, the Zac Efron one movie about him. At first you look at it, you're like, Zac Efron looks nothing like Ted Bundy. But by the end of the movie, you look at Ted Bundy and you're like, that's not him. Zac Efron's Ted Bundy.
Yeah. See, I haven't watched that. Is that any good?
Yeah, I don't mind it.
Is it quite, not graphic, but is it quite true to what happened?
It's very, you don't see any of the murders. You don't see much detail on what actually happens. It's kind of more so based around the court case and about his relationship.
But are they at least implied and stuff? Do they
sort of... Yeah. They don't do the whole he walks into a house and he comes out covered in blood or anything like that. It's just it's sort of more focusing on the toll that it had on his partner when he got arrested and more his private life. I just don't think because there's so much involved in this case, you would never be able to cover everything.
Because she
in one
stuck with him through the whole incarceration period, even after.
That was a different girl. So he had a girlfriend, got locked up. She was actually the one that called the police and said, hey, check him out. And then another girl. Wow. Well, that's how it's portrayed in the movie anyway. And then, he hooks up with another girl who he ends up then marrying. And, she stays with him through it all, has a kid to him. It's an interesting movie. It's a good movie. I don't mind it.
I might have to watch it then. Because there's actually a couple of things that have come out on Netflix about him, I think.
There's actually, according to IMDb, 115 movies and TV shows about Ted Bundy.
I love that. Why have I... Yeah. Me, who freaking loves facts.
115. And that's not counting, if you have, you have a show that's serial killers and then they'll go through and each episode will be about a different killer. That's not even counting those.
Wow. Which surely that'd be one about him.
So I would say he would be in well over 200 episodes of stuff. When we catch that one. I actually had a client come into the studio the other day and her husband, while we were talking, I was talking to her, and her husband, I said something and her husband just randomly out of nowhere goes, yeah, absolutely. And I just looked at him, he's like, we listen. Yeah, that was really, really cool.
I made it a bit less crowded, but that's why I put on the little coffin board.
Nice.
Things we say a lot. That could get very crowded on it. Oh, well. Anyway, back to Ted Bundy. For those that don't... I think I was very in the dark about Ted Bundy.
Yeah.
He was one of those very known serial killers, but you don't realise how much there is behind Ted Bundy.
Yeah.
What the hell?
You just... And I think it's probably because of all the movies, they can't put so much information in.
Yeah.
So you just go on what you've seen. Yeah. But then when you actually delve into it, you're like, what the heck?
Because all I literally knew about Ted Bundy was that he was the one that was portrayed as that good-looking one that, I guess, lured people in with his looks and the yellow V-dub.
Yep.
That's all I remember.
There's a little bit more involved in the case.
I know. For those that don't know, Theodore Robert Bundy was born on November 24th, 1946, and he was an American serial killer who kidnapped, raped, and murdered dozens of women and girls during the 1970s. He only confessed to 30 murders. There's between police and other, I don't know whether it's people like investigators that were actually doing things on him. They think it could be even over 100.
Wow.
That he's murdered. And literally even starting, I think, from the age of 12.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is kind of fucked up to think about.
Yeah.
Victims is likely much higher. What I didn't realize about him was that he was one of those serial killers that, I suppose it doesn't matter how grotesque I say it, he revisited the bodies of those that he abducted, groomed, performed sex acts on the corpses until they were too decomposed or wild animals had prevented Bundy from using them any further. I even wrote in red here, actual what the fuck?
I think that's a huge part of his story that a lot of people don't realise is the necrophilia side of it.
I did not know that.
I think a lot of people are even unaware of the whole raping side of it, full stop, let alone the necrophilia and how gross, like how far he went. Like he didn't just murder them and do his thing. He went back.
I did not know that. I just thought he murdered literally random college girls.
Yeah.
And if I lived in the 70s, I probably would have been murdered.
You were 100% his type. You would have been Bundy bait for sure.
Do you know what? I was about to say I wouldn't be dumb enough to follow someone to their car, but I'm so nice that especially if he was like the whole thing he did with whether it was a broken arm in a cast, or whether he had a cast on his leg or crutches or something that made him look like he was unable to do something, and he'd ask for help, I'd probably be like, oh my god, sure.
And I would have been the idiot that wouldn't have waited for him to ask. I would have been like, hey, do you need a hand?
As soon as the book drops, you're like, oh my god.
Just be like, yeah, I'll just hand you your next victim.
Let me piggyback you to the car.
For me, I'm Chonky and he didn't kill chonks. I lived to see another day. But you, my dear, were 100% Bundy.
Bundy bait. Oh, yuck. It's kind of fucked up because he apparently had decapitated. I need to stop saying apparently and I believe and I think.
Yeah.
It's just whatever I've found, obviously, in my extensive research. So I suppose it's true. He decapitated at least 12 of his victims and he'd kept their heads as keepsakes in his apartment. How disgusting. How would that not smell?
And how do you go about living a seemingly normal life on the outside?
Yeah.
While you've got heads
just laying around your house.
Yeah.
Yuck. And on a few occasions, he broke into homes at night, bludgeoned, maimed, strangled, and sexually assaulted his victims in their sleep. So imagine waking up to that. Like, imagine waking up to that. Just
breathing on top of you.
Yeah, that's.
I feel like now is a really good spot for a disclaimer. We're just gonna say shit. You're probably gonna get offended.
I think we did say that in the beginning. Yeah. But if you listen from the first episode, if you're listening to everyone, you don't have to. We're gonna twist your arm.
We ain't sugarcoating shit, honey.
Yeah.
Sorry about it.
Sorry, I mean it is.
All you can think of is just Ted Bundy heaving on top of you.
Because I've got the picture just there in my notes. I don't know why I put that in there. I'm glad I've got this visual. Right, so yes, he would assault his victims in their sleep. And yeah, waking up to that would have been, I don't even know how to explain that. I think
fucking horrific.
One of his victims slept through the whole thing, like would not have.
Wow.
Doesn't remember the attack.
It doesn't say much for what little Teddy was packing.
What little Teddy was packing.
He could sleep through the whole thing.
I mean, he obviously beat her.
Oh, yeah.
He beat her, so she would have been unconscious / asleep.
Oh, okay.
But still, she doesn't remember anything. She slept through the whole thing. It's probably a good thing.
Yeah, how lucky for her that she doesn't remember it.
Yeah. I mean, there is, in my notes, just to give you a visual, I've got just like a brief summary kind of thing. Then I've got his early life and about his dad. Then I've got high school, uni. And then I've got just kind of stuff about his MO and like what he did and that sort of thing, which is kind of similar to the beginning. I should probably read that. And then I've got like literally stuff about his murder spree. But all this, and these are dates of each victim. All this in green.
Way more organized.
And then these are the description of each one, obviously. But these are each dot point is each person.
Wow.
So that's all his victims. Like that's a long ass list.
This one might be a two-parter.
It's
gonna be a two-parter.
I don't know why was that like Boston? Two-parter is like
do you follow Michaela Noguera on TikTok? She just has this real thick Boston accent.
Oh really?
And she always says, "Go to part 2. It's gonna be a two-parter."
Oh no, that's where I was. Hold on.
I've just gone to Monsters Inc. Is your paperwork asking?
That's exactly it. That's exactly what I was thinking of, and I couldn't think of what it was.
Always watching, Wazowski. Always watching.
There you go. I feel like a couple episodes I've had to cut out a huge chunk of just us laughing, and then I'm literally like, what the f is happening? Why are we laughing at Ted Bundy? We are serious. It's just that I think this is our way. Some people have different coping mechanisms of not coping mechanisms. I don't know if that's the right way to say it. You get what I'm trying to say? Different people have different ways of coping with things or discussing things maybe because it helps you get through it. Like, how would I put it? He's a graphically violent man. I did not realize some of the stuff he did, and he just continued.
Yeah.
One to the next, to the next, to the next. It was psychotic.
Just, that other side of him just had the girlfriend who had the kid, and he was studying and doing all those things.
He was like the father figure to the, kind of.
Be able to switch from...
Yeah. He said that himself, that he had this switch. There was something inside him that would be triggered by certain things, which I'll explain what triggered him. 1975, Bundy was arrested and jailed in Utah for aggravated kidnapping and attempted criminal assault, and then became a suspect in a long list of unsolved homicides that spanned several states. And it was crazy because it took them ages to sort of put these crimes together and be like, this is one person doing these across all these states. He managed to escape twice from imprisonment, imprisonment, where he would then commit a further 3 murders and multiple assaults before being recaptured in 1978. Although he tried to represent himself in court, even though he was still only a law student, that's crazy to me that they let him do that.
Yep.
And it makes me so mad that they let him interview the survivors and how brutal these attacks were. And they survived these attacks, that they let him be in the same room as him.
Yep, and they had to face him while he was asking questions to them.
Yeah.
Trying to prove that he wasn't the one who did it.
And I love the story of one of the survivors. We'll tell you after, because I've got it off Morbid.
Yeah.
Did you hear? Did you listen to the
I would have listened to it, yeah.
Yeah, so he was representing himself in court, being this, in his suit, law student, trying to be this, what he presented himself as, this good looking gentleman, I guess. And I loved that there was one survivor that he was in the middle of an interview with him face to face. There was nothing between them.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a, prison cell or whatever with the glass between them talking to each other. She had to sit there face to face. And he was, asking her all these questions, and she just was refusing to give in to his scare tactics. She was just refusing to give in to him, give in to that, perfect gentleman, whatever he was trying to be. And he snapped. And when he snapped, she was like, there he is. There's that monster that attacked me that night.
How good. I suppose that's the flip side to it too, is if you're strong enough to then do that, not many people get to do that, get to be face to face with the person who assaulted them and say...
Be able to do that.
Yeah.
Be able to... not torment, but all she did was just refuse to give in to his questioning, refuse to sort of give in to this perfect persona that he was trying to show.
Yeah.
And she was just like, I know that's not you, which is amazing that she had that courage to do that. But considering what she went through as well, to face him and so he tried to represent himself in court, even though he was a law student, which is crazy that they let him do that to begin with. And then, interviewing the survivors. He failed and received 3 death sentences in 2 trials, sucked in. And spoiler alert, spoiler alert, he was executed by electric chair on January 24th, 1989, which a lot of people, they sort of go into discussions, I think, on whether it would have been... I don't know what the right word is. I'm always lost for words. Whether it would have benefited us somehow to have kept him alive. Obviously keep him in prison, because fucking what he did was crazy.
And sort of see what you could learn from him.
Yeah, but then on one hand, that would be great. But then a lot of people say, he would have fucked with your heads. He had that. Because he did... went to think you need to do psychology as well. So there was a lot that he knew how to manipulate people. So he would have just, manipulated
That's
them.
it. I don't think they ever would have got the information that they wanted out of him. What they've learned from him just from the evidence alone is huge.
Yeah. On how he... on how his brain worked, learning all these things and how to manipulate people.
Yep.
It's crazy, but it's one of those questions of nature versus nurture, or nurture versus nature, whichever way you want to say it. He wasn't actually born Bundy. Did you know that?
Yep.
And so he was born Teddy. He was born Theodore, cute little Teddy. Theodore Robert Cowell, I think, was his original surname. Yeah, born to Eleanor Louise Cowell, I think that's how you say it, at the Elizabeth Lund Home for Unwed Mothers in Burlington, Vermont, as Theodore Robert Cowell, and later became Bundy when she met John Culpepper Bundy. That's a cute middle name. Culpepper.
Culpepper. That is cute. It's
that
adorable.
Is cute. I've never heard that before. She met him in 1951. They married later that year, and Johnny formally adopted Ted. They actually went on to have 4 children together, and he'd often try to include Ted in camping trips and shit, but Ted was always like, not cold, but just sort of distant. Like, he just wasn't into the camping, wasn't into anything. He wasn't taking what he was putting down. But it's funny because later he'd complained to a girlfriend that Johnny wasn't a real father, wasn't very bright, and didn't make much money. And then I put in brackets, lol, because why is that such a big topic?
Yeah.
His biological father's identity was actually never confirmed, and there was no listing on his original birth certificate. There was claims that the name Lloyd Marshall, a US Air Force veteran, was Ted's father, that his name was on the certificate, but there was nothing on there. Eleanor, his mum, later claimed she met a war veteran named Jack Worthington, who abandoned her soon after she fell pregnant. So she was kind of just throwing names around like, oh, this guy in the Air Force, and that's why he's kind of not around. Or this guy, because it was later revealed that there was no records of a Jack Worthington that existed in the Air Force. So she was just, literally throwing names around. There was actually some that expressed suspicions that Bundy was actually, I don't like the word side. I tried to look something else up, but there was talks that Eleanor's own father had sexually assaulted her, and that Bundy was the product of incest. But there was a 2020 documentary, I didn't write down the name, but there was a psychiatrist that actually claimed to received a sample of Bundy's blood, and that the DNA test actually confirmed that he was not the product of incest. So I guess if it was in a documentary, they would have done their research better than I have. But he was actually raised by his grandparents, so his mum was very young when she had him, and because she had him at one of those like unwed mothers, was like very hush-hush and secret. When they came back, they pretended that they had adopted him. So for a lot of his childhood, they pretended that Eleanor, his mum, was actually his older sister. That would fuck with you. It was just to avoid the stigma accompanied with having children out of wedlock, and, you know, she didn't even know who the dad was, or claimed to not have. Or maybe whether it was a cover-up, that kind of thing, because he'd assaulted her. Who knows? But he eventually found out the truth, and there's different stories to how he found out. Whether it was his cousin that he somehow knew. I don't know how his cousin would have known, but his cousin told him and like teased him about it, calling him like a bastard, stuff like that. But Anne Rule, who was a biographer and true crime writer who knew Bundy personally, she works with him at some period in time in like a suicide hotline or something. Not hotline, what do you call them? It was called Suicide Hotline Crisis Center. They worked there together, but she was a true crime writer as well. And she wrote a biography about him, because they worked side by side. And I think it was called, hold on, I did write it down. It was called Stranger Beside Me, because she'd literally, sat beside and worked with him for such a long period of time, and was like, you know, would not have imagined that he could do something like this. She claimed, to know him personally. She wrote that he didn't find out his true parentage until 1969, when he himself found his birth record in Vermont. So whether it was rifling through stuff at home and, hold on, I think I need a drink. Sorry. There is so much info about Bundy condensed. I understand why people do 2-part episodes or whatever, because he is...
there's so much to it.
Not that I skimmed, but I was trying to delete stuff and not include things that I didn't need. But I'm like, everything seems so relevant to who he is as a person.
And you've got to wonder too how much of that obviously people have written about that they've heard from him, how much of his stories have been lies, because he says that he didn't know that his mum was his mum until 1969. Then he also says that his mum's new partner, the Bundy guy, was a shit dad. How was he ever dad to him if she wasn't mum? You know what I mean? Like, so then how much of that, like, has he lied about? Like, has he turned around and said that, you know, he's told people, oh, I found this out, to try and use that as an excuse to get away with what he did?
There's actually a few things that he's, you know, said someone maybe, not whether they were buried there or there was something somewhere and it wasn't there. Like, he did fib. He did lie a lot. I didn't even realise that. I didn't even put 2 and 2 together. That
But it just shows how much shit he would have lied about.
Or either that it was true that his cousin was the one that divulged it, that he was younger, so he obviously knew from a lot of a younger age than 1969, because that's him in his 20s then.
Yeah, I guess that just takes it back to keeping him alive wouldn't have answered any questions because everything out of his mouth was bullshit.
Yeah, he just would have kept being, this, because I think he at one point blamed a lot on porn. Fucking everyone blames everything on porn. A lot of serial killers do.
Because porn's disgusting. Necrophilia is fine, but porn.
Yeah. He blamed his mum at some point as well. So he expressed resentment towards his mum for keeping the truth from him. And obviously it was kind of, that was a turning point when he found out. So yeah, I think that was all bullshit when he found out. He was angry that she left him to discover the truth on his own and didn't bother telling him. But yeah, so back to his childhood. He was actually, I wrote terror, but I don't know if that word is strong enough, if that describes it strongly enough of how shit of a child he was. These are I wrote a couple dot points of some of the shit things he did as a kid in front of people, kids from his neighborhood. He literally... There was, I think, kids in his neighborhood that not wrote a testimony, but have said that he would take kids into the woods, take their clothing. I did write this down. Hold on. I'm jumping ahead. He would take kids into the woods and people in the neighborhood would hear these kids screaming. What the hell was he doing with them?
Yeah.
That they would be screaming.
How did no one ever...
There was no more info on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a list of some of the crazy shit he had done. There were some instances where Bundy exhibited disturbing behavior at a young age. He was... I think disturbing is a good word.
Yeah.
Instead of terror. Terror sounds like I'm just saying he's a little shithead kid. But it was disturbing. So Eleanor's younger sister, she recalled waking up from a nap one time to find herself surrounded by knives from the kitchen that Bundy, 3 at the time, 3, had placed and was standing by the bed smiling at her. There were all these knives around her.
Wow.
And he was just standing on the side of the bed smiling at her. I would have punched him by accident, like his reflexes. And yeah, a childhood neighbour in Tacoma has alleged that he took part in animal cruelty. So he did a lot of fucked up shit in front of kids in the neighbourhood. But this was literally in quotation marks because this was quoted directly from someone. He hung one of the stray cats in the neighbourhood from one of the clotheslines in the backyard, doused it in lighter fluid and set it on fire, and I heard that cat squealing.
Wow.
So this would have been pre-teens. Imagine that.
So literally everything we know now about signs of someone being a serial killer
is like animal cruelty.
Yeah.
If you're just cruel enough to, to actually put another living being in pain.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he would not have stopped it. He would have just let it, he would make them, this is fucked up. He would make what they call, I think it's punji traps. I think that's how you say it. It's like a booby trap. You know those ones they dig a hole in the ground?
Yeah.
And there's like the spikes that are made out of like bamboo or whatever with a sharpened point, and then you put something over the top of it and people walk on it, fall into it. He'd make those in like woods near his house where kids play and shit. He made those around the woods in his neighborhood, and a little girl fell into one of his traps, slicing the whole side of her leg open.
What a sadistic little fuck.
Yeah, and that would have been that again would have been pre-teens, I'm sure.
Wow.
That's chaotic, but I love that I just had to dot point that because there's just such wild stories for one person.
Yeah.
He is, I say wild and crazy a lot, but he is, I don't even know how to explain Ted Bundy. Like I was even just writing all the research out. It was just, I was like, how does a human being do these things?
And the more you look into it, the more you're like, no, this can't be real.
Yeah.
But he's definitely a truth is stranger than a fiction story.
It's literally like a horror movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, poor little girl. I'm pretty sure it affected her for the rest of her life. I was going to say she was paralyzed, but I think that just may have been one of the ones he attacked. Survived and was paralyzed. Bundy often spoke highly of his grandparents, which is weird. He respected and identified with them. It was weird, but I guess him identifying with them, I put that in quotes, maybe because his granddad was psychotic as well. Some people say that Samuel, his grandfather, was a bully who beat his wife and dog, and then I wrote, what a piece of shit. Apparently he swung the neighbours' cats by their tails, and he was often expressing racist and xenophobic views and attitudes. What's xenophobic? But let me Google this because
I should know this.
There's a lot of words of things that I don't understand. I think just my brain can't handle a lot of English words, it seems. Xenophobic. Phobic. Having a fear or dislike of anything that is perceived as foreign or strange. When it says he's racist, it's like, you know.
So he would have been like Red from that 70s show. Buy a Toyota, it's Japanese. You got to buy a Ford.
Yeah.
Or a Chevy, it's American.
Yeah, that sort of shit. He was full on, apparently. He reportedly threw Julia, who was Eleanor's sister, so Bundy's auntie, threw her down a flight of stairs for oversleeping as well. Like, that's a bit full on.
As I yawn.
Yeah. And he also reportedly flew into a violent rage when questioned about Bundy's paternity. Is that a little, get a little defensive there, but Mr. What's his name? Yeah. So some people say he was, this violent, racist, old grumpy man. But then Bundy's cousins, so I don't know if it's because they're family, whether they're just sticking up for him, but it was Bundy's cousins and apparently other locals in Roxborough where they were living remembered Samuel as a fine man and expressed bewilderment at the reports that he was a violent man. But that, same case when they say, same as Anne Rule, didn't realise Ted Bundy was he was a nice, giving man, apparently had empathy when talking to people on the phone about suicide.
Yeah.
So, you don't, literally stranger beside me, you don't know.
So he obviously had that same switch in him where he could be,
out maybe in the world, he was his father then.
Out in the world, he's this amazing gentleman, do anything for anyone, and at home, he's a pig. Behind doors, he's a violent man. Yeah. With a violent nature. Some people were saying that the characterization that Sam, the grandfather, was a raging alcoholic and animal abuser was just a convenient characterization used to make people justify why Ted was the way he was. Because I guess, and especially in those times, it would make more sense that he came from an abusive household and turned out the way he did than he came from a fine household that just had a secret, because then anyone could be that person. So they wanted to, I guess, paint that he came from a bad household to be a bad person, because if you were a good person, if you were a good family, you wouldn't have bad children, if that makes sense. Yeah. It's hard. It's like one of those, like I said, nurture versus whichever way you say it. Because he turned out all right. Like when he went to uni, that's sort of where I'm at now, is his high school and uni years. High school, there were some counts that I read where he was, bullied throughout high school. But then there were other counts that I've read he was just literally an average guy. He was just there and no one noticed him. There was nothing outstanding about him. He graduated high school in 1965, did 1 year at university. I don't know how to say this word. Puget. Puget? Well, that's UPS. That's University of UPS Uni. He then transferred to University of Washington, UW, where in 1967, he started dating Diane Edwards, and she was the love of his life. Do you know what? She is his trigger point. So that's where she comes in. She is... so they dated up until 1968, wherein Diane left Bundy after expressing her frustration at Bundy's immaturity and lack of ambition. He, I think, quit uni at that point. He was in a series of minimum wage jobs. He quit uni in 1968. He wasn't really doing anything in life at that point. So after their breakup, Bundy traveled between Colorado, Arkansas, Philadelphia, and New York, enrolling for a semester at Temple University. I think that was in Philadelphia. He returned to Washington in 1969, where he met Elizabeth, I think it's Clofer. Yeah, Clofer, a single mother from Utah who worked as a secretary at UW. So she was the second sort of big relationship he had. That's who they focus on a lot in that extremely evil, shockingly vile. He dates her through this whole period now, I think even up until his incarceration, So Diane does come back into the picture, but this is, I'm not going to say funny, it's not funny. So they say that I'll get into it, I'm jumping. But she comes back into the picture. But Elizabeth Bundy became a father figure, I guess, to Elizabeth's daughter, who was 3 when he came into the picture. Which is a little fucked up. She would later come out to say that there were incidents with Bundy beginning at age 7 in which Bundy was abusive or sexually inappropriate with her, whether he so I wrote here, the accounts included Bundy hitting her in the face, knocking her down, putting her at risk of drowning. So I don't know whether that was leaving her in the bath or something. I'm not quite sure on that one. Indecent exposure and sexually... Oh, shit. Almost
fucking yeeted my iPad. Yeah, indecent exposure and sexually touching disguised as accidents or games.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so imagine that. I don't know whether she never told her mum or whether she did and her mum ignored her. I don't think this was a whole Menendez situation. But yeah, so this was mid 1970s. Bundy was thriving. So he was now with Elizabeth, he was his great father figure, kind of, what we thought he was at the time. Bundy was thriving and goal orientated. He was re-enrolled at UW, but as a psychology major this time. So he's changed completely, which I think him studying psychology helped him, I guess, figure out ways to manipulate people or figure out how people are the way they are, maybe sometimes. It was a big advantage to him to study psychology. And he even got a job working for a suicide hotline crisis center. So imagine being like, I, was at that lowest point in my life and Ted Bundy talked me out of suicide.
What a fucking weird feeling that would be.
Yeah.
One of the most prolific serial killers in history convinced me not to kill myself.
Yeah. But that's where he met Anne Rule, which was that one that wrote the biography. Yeah, so it's called The Stranger Beside Me. It's one of the most definitive Bundy biographies out there. It's very thorough. She described Bundy as kind, empathetic, and saw nothing disturbing with his personality. I guess, he painted a picture very well.
Yeah.
And I suppose he had that in him to be able to talk people out of low situations. He must have had something nice in him, but I don't want to say that. So he graduated in 1972. So I'm not quite sure what degree he actually got at that point, because that was only 2 years.
Yeah.
I feel like psychology, that might have been like an entry, the lowest. He went on to have several jobs within political election campaigns. That's why it's hard to cut things out about bits of his life, because somehow they all seem so relevant. So he'd studied, I can't even remember what he was studying the very first time, but then doing psychology. Then he was a law student. He had several jobs within political election campaigns. So he was an assistant and helping run campaigns for governors and stuff. So he was trusted with all these pretty high up, political, I don't even know what you call, not employees, like candidates. That's crazy that he worked on these things. Like, surely they do background checks and stuff like that.
Which shows how well he was able to convince people that he was a good person.
Yeah, that he was someone that they trusted to run their campaign. He was pretty full on in these, but they actually helped him get into law school.
Yeah.
Because I think he ended up, it was early 1973, he actually ended up sitting do they call it the LSAT?
Yeah.
SAT, LSATs? Yeah, and he actually got a pretty mediocre score, but because he'd worked in these election campaigns and had all these connections, and then even was charming with his professors when he was in uni, he actually got recommendations from both his professors and several committee members that he worked with during those campaigns, so that he got into law school.
Oh.
And he ended up getting into UPS, which was that first one I mentioned that I'm not going to try and say. So he was still, I think, while he's doing law school, he was still working within these campaigns every so often.
Yeah.
And it was during a business trip for the Republican Party in the summer of 1973 that Bundy actually rekindled his relationship with Diane Edwards, who, the love of his life. And it was really weird because he actually managed to keep these two relationships going at the same time.
As well as just
you dog.
casually killing everybody.
Yeah.
He's got some, he could have been handy with teaching people time management.
Because how do you manage all this? And how are these people not questioning, where are you for all these periods of time? Yeah.
Time Management for Dummies by Ted Bundy. 100% would buy it.
So she started dating him because he'd obviously transformed so much. He wasn't some dropkick working these shit jobs anymore. He was now a serious and dedicated professional, seemingly on the cusp of a significant legal and political career. So she was like, you've actually done something with yourself. You've got goals. You've got aspirations. You're doing something with your life. He was extra attractive because he was doing something. So he'd, go on to date both Elizabeth and Diane with neither woman knowing. So the whole tale of him dating Diane is apparently because he was just trying to get, not revenge. So what am I trying to fucking say? So come January 1974, he abruptly just ended things with Diane. He literally just ghosted her. Like she tried calling him, she wrote him letters, and any form of communication went unanswered. And until about a month later, she finally managed to get him on the phone. And when she asked him why he ended things without an explanation, where the fuck did you go? He just said in a flat, calm voice, Diane, I have no idea what you mean, and just hung up on her.
Wow.
He himself later said that he just wanted to prove he could have married her.
Wow.
That it wasn't like that he was good enough. And she claimed that the whole courtship, like him trying to get back with her and stuff, was deliberately planned, and that he waited all those years for her to fall in love with him just so he could drop her, reject her, just like she had him.
Wow.
Like, that's a bit petty. That's a long...
What a child.
Yeah, that's a long, like, whether he went to law school or to whatever he was doing just to be like, I'm good, I'm this good, or whether he happened to be doing these things and was now successful. And so that's why he dated her, to just be like, fuck you. I wrote grow up. But at this point, after they'd broken up, he'd started skipping classes at law school. And by April, he'd stopped going entirely as women started disappearing across the Pacific Northwest. So he'd kind of, I guess, she triggered him again.
Yeah.
And it changed him into this monster again. Women literally across the Pacific Northwest started disappearing that looked like Diane. The long hair, part down the middle. Fucking hell. They had the part down the middle. Their hair was, I think, straight generally. They all looked very similar.
Wow.
But then at some point, someone wrote, they kind of looked similar but completely different at the same time, if that makes sense. Like, it just, people were fishing almost.
Yeah.
But I don't know. If you kind of look at the pictures of all the victims, you can...
Yeah, there's definitely similarities.
Yeah, of what would have triggered him.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was rejection as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of the girls that he attacks at one point that we'll go into were literally girls that rejected him. He wasn't this charming uni student anymore. I think they were like, not laughing at him, but he was like old.
Yeah.
They were like, ew, why are you talking to us? So he got rejected again and, had a little hissy fit.
Oh, chucked his toys out the cot.
They don't want to play with me. But yeah, so that's when women started disappearing and he started his little, I say little, but it was not a little murder spree.
Not at all.
Chaotic. And he was with Elizabeth this entire time, which is crazy to think.
Yeah.
She was living with this person during this period. We're going to stop it here for you guys, just because there's a lot to unpack about Bundy. All I've covered is his childhood, his father, and sort of his in high school years.
And that's even with skimming out on heaps of info.
I've cut a lot out. There's so much behind Bundy. I keep saying that. My mouth is dry, like the Sahara. I feel like I have been talking so much. There is just so much, like I said, to unpack about Bundy. He is a full-on person, but every piece seems crucial. You can't cut too much.
That's it. And you could easily have doubled what you've read already.
Yeah.
Just for that section.
Yeah. This could be a 3-parter, but I'm not going to do that. So we'll cut it off there and we're going to post this. It's not like we're not going to make you wait 2 weeks for the next part. We'll post it sort of, how are we going to do that? What are we going to do? I don't want to make you guys wait 2 weeks for the next part, but where is that shit? And they'll forget what we were talking about.
A lot of them do it. So yeah, just...
What, even when they do 2-parters, they still do it weekly?
Yeah.
All right.
Fucking Morbid have even chucked in a listener tales in between a 3-parter.
Oh, really?
That pissed me right off.
I don't want to anger our 15 fan.
Woohoo, we got a new one.
Hey, Mum, how long do you reckon we should? She's my only fan. Right. Well, yeah, there is so much to unpack about him. So when we come back, we'll kind of go over Bundy's MO and sort of break down his murder spree. That's the only way to put it. That's all it was a murder spree.
I'd love to know what his actual number
was.
Yeah.
Even he said, I think I wrote it later on somewhere, but there was a point where he was discussing in interviews and he made a joke and was like, oh, add a 0 to that and you're closer.
But that's the thing too. He lied so much. He could have taken credit for murders he didn't do.
That's true.
Like trying to big note himself.
Mm-hmm.
Like he might have only done 4 of the, 12 or whatever we know about. He might have done 300. Yeah. Like you never would have got the truth out of him.
But it's so true. And I think it was investigators that said it. Even they were like, for everyone that he's confessed to, there's one that he hasn't confessed to.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot out there that he hasn't.
Yep. And they would just be people that don't fit the his profile. So, it might have been a 15-year-old boy. No one's going to look at the body of a 15-year-old boy they found and think that it was Bundy.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't fit that
MO.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which we'll go in. We're going to keep yammering on, but we'll break it down for you because it's a lot to compact, and
you'll get to hear it next week.
Yeah, we'll do it in a week instead of a little bonus.
Yeah.
If I edit it well enough, fast enough. But
You'll get it when it's edited, all right?
But so we'll come back in the next part and go over his MO and go over his, I guess, kill list. It's a long list. Scrolled through it all in front of Jade just before, and it took me a minute or so. It was a long list.
If you want to be up to date with when the episodes drop, considering this one's going to be a sneaky one, hit the bell.
Hit the bell.
The little bell on wherever you're listening to us. Hit the bell so you get notified.
You're going to be shocked. You're going to be like, hey,
surprise episode.
It hasn't been a fortnight already. And you'll get a bonus little Ted Bundy non-Australian episode.
And it'll help you get over the sads of going back to work.
Hopefully, yes. Bring in the new year with a new episode.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll post something on Insta. Give us a like. Give us a shout out.
Yep.
I don't know what else to say. I don't want to be one of those that's like, subscribe to my channel. I don't know. But at the same time, subscribe to my channel. Subscribe to our podcast.
Follow everything. Listen to all the other episodes.
Just Boo You Gore podcast.
Yep. On everything.
On everything. Is
Everywhere.
it got podcast?
Yeah.
I mean, you can see the picture is like lime green. You can tell it's us. You'll see us. And I guess the more... No, that sounds really cheesy. I was going to say the more followers, the more we'll post, I guess. We'll get more into it. Right. Well, thanks for listening to this first part of Ted Bundy. And we'll see you in a week. Sneaky little week for part 2 of Ted Bundy. Bye.
Bye.